Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Thank you very much for watching.
Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Don't worry, this is going to be a shorter video. I hope it's going to be a very short video because the video I made yesterday was a little bit over 2 hours. You know, I have high-speed internet, and it took quite a while to even upload that. It seemed like it took extra amount of time. I mean, I expected to take the bigger the file, but anyway, thank God I upgraded the speed of actually by accident, in a way, of our internet speed. Let me see what it is now. Let's see, speed. Okay. My stomach is growling. Everything is kind of... See, I was getting, 400 down and, 20 up, let's say. And then when I signed up for this new service where you get, discounted, you get a discount or whatever, well, the government pays to, I don't know how many, let's say 16. I'm sure you have to meet some standards, well, I'm not kidding. So I upgrade when I think it was the government pay the United States. They've decided, the Democratic, with some Republicans, the Democrats, that, people need internet access. Kids need access to, like if you have to school at home because of virus, whatever it is, people, and I could not function without the internet. If I lost the internet, I wouldn't know how much money I had in the bank. I wouldn't know who I owed money to. I wouldn't know. I mean, it would just be it. And I think a lot of people, I think I'm not the only one. So the government decided and worked out a plan, and the plan was, I think it's $30. So if you're poor, you can apply with one of these internet providers, and the government will pay. Now, I thought from, I'm not too smart, but I thought after reading it all and everything, I thought that the government was going to pay $30, and that was going to take, no, I knew, I did know that there was going to be, that they would pay $30. Well, I'm confused now. Anyway, when I found out I was eligible with the internet service provider that have been using for years, they've gone through, I think, 3 name changes, I thought that I was going to get the service, and the government was going to pay $30 for it. And the mistake I made, I already had high-speed service, but the next up was, one 1 gig down instead of 400 meg down. So, but I guess when I called and said, okay, I want to sign up for that, okay, great. And I said, I want high speed and, whatever. And so, I mean, I wanted to make sure they didn't give me, I should have said, I just want to sign up. I think saying high speed, so they signed me up. And so, we live near what used to be Carswell Air Force Base. It's a Joint Reserve Air Force, or a Joint Reserve Base. And that's the aircraft you're hearing. Marines, Navy, Air Force. And I think they do it basically sort of the same, same day. So you could tell, okay, it's, I guess you could see if you knew aircraft, you could tell. But anyway, I messed up because of my stupidity or whatever. And why am I on this subject? I do not know. Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much situation, or I don't want to get into my own son's privacy, whatever, but we didn't know where he was for a while. He just walked out the door, he walked out the door one night about 10 p.m. And before that he's been weird. He's been weird he hasn't been taking his medicine, and he's been extremely, he's been talking gibberish. He's been, believe it or not, almost there for weeks, laughing continuously. Even he would go to bed and lay down and go to sleep, and he would be laughing in his sleep, part of the time, not the entire time. And of course there was a lot of other things that, that he did. And then there was times where he went through just screaming, And so it's been rugged. Anyway, he just walked out, and then I thought I went out to check on him. I wanted to give him a little bit, of space. I went out, he was gone. And we couldn't locate him. And, then we informed the, called the non-emergency number, and they're sort of familiar with him. And they asked the officers to look for him. We called the hospitals and things like that, especially the psych hospital. Nothing. One of the things about psych patients are, hospitals, doctors, all that type of stuff do not, in fact, it's sort of forbidden. Giving out information even to parents. Of course, he's grown. He's 56, I think. But they'll refuse to give you information. We can't tell you if that person's here, and you would not believe the rigmarole. And I worked hospital security for 30 years, and as an example, and the regulations on privacy and everything have gotten more difficult. But I worked at a hospital. I was a supervisor at the time that this all happened, and one of our parking lots was going to be totally, pavement was all going to be redone. And so we had plenty of time, so to make sure that all the, nobody parked in there, and everybody who, patients and people who had parked there, or people who, that was a close parking lot to a rehab. We had one of our buildings there, and, and it was a blind, one of the things there was a blind program. Those people lived there. But anyway, so I started checking. We checked all the cars in that parking lot, but we were still allowing people to park there because they just needed to be out. At a certain point, we wanted to make sure. And so one car, I think the tag was expired on it. I forget. We ran it. It came back with information. But we couldn't contact any of those people. And it got down and so then finally it was like, okay. Anyway, I did everything. Everybody who the tags came back or whatever. I checked to see if anybody with that last name, and maybe somebody's visiting with I don't know I did everything, and we checked every way we could. Ran the police through the police department, and of course I went to the our psych unit, and over the years that I worked there, that was 5.5 years, and especially even I worked altogether like 30 years hospital security at different hospitals, but everybody was cooperative in the hospital except the people who worked in the psych unit. Now, the people who worked in our psych unit at that hospital, they looked okay. But other psych units, like the city psych unit, where if the police picked up somebody that was, they went well. If they needed medical treatment, they got medical treatment, but for physical problems, but they went to that psych unit, Western Missouri Mental Health. So that's the city thing. Those employees, a few times I had to go over there. And I had to go for my son. He was a patient, there from time to time. Once my son was, back then he was working. He worked at Taco Bell for years. And the manager there, knew about his problem, and he, he worked, and he really wasn't having any problem at work, but he ended up telling her that, because I guess he ended up telling her that he was going to kill me, and so that he would be arrested, and so that he would be found guilty of murder, and so he would be sentenced to death, and so he would be executed, and then he would be with God. So that's the type of psych patients you deal with. Unfortunately, many of us, I think 1 in 10 people, I think probably worldwide, but in the United States, 1 in 10 people have mental problems. And I mean, it varies, severity and everything. But anyway, when she reported that to the authorities when he told her that, and then the authorities showed up just as I was getting home from work or whatever, and they took him to Western Missouri Mental Health. So there's times I had to go, there, and the employees there, the ones that worked in there, I couldn't tell the difference between them and the the patients, and just the entire thing of the experience of all those years of working with the psych unit at and I brought this up like once a year at this one hospital. It varied, once a year, the assistant administrator of the hospital, who was in charge of security, we had a security director, but the guy who was over him, and of course he had other departments he was responsible for being over, plant operations and all these other things. But every time this assistant administrator, who I liked, I think he got fired because of me, however, but I'm not claiming that as a victory. I wouldn't claim that as a victory, but I just got it from one person, that's why, but it matches up because the assistant administrator had just been ordered by the hospital administrator to appear in the human resources department with the human resources director and with me. And I had been through that situation, before. And the assistant administrator, who I'd never seen, he was in a rage. Blood vessels were, he was, and because he'd been ordered by the hospital administrator, to go there, and he was in trouble. I wasn't in trouble. And but anyway, when the assistant administrator would show up once a year, I don't think the other guys hardly said anything. They might have said a few things, had a little, but in general, they were sitting there kind of shaking in their boots. And I wasn't ever shaking in my boots. So when he showed up, then I would explain, the psych unit, this, something needs to be done, And actually, they eventually set up between the hospitals, a bunch of them, and we went to Baptist. They really had nice auditorium and stuff, and nurses showed up and stuff from psych units, and security officers from various hospitals that had psych units showed up, and discussed, try to figure out things, and it really didn't work. I think the psych employees were, I think, it was like, what are we doing here with these night watchmen? It was like, there wasn't any, things were talked about, the problems that have happened, and how could these things be, what could we do to make an improvement? And I think they all went back, and so we didn't accomplish anything. I hope we could accomplish, but to keep some of the things that happened. Anyway, so I went to the psych unit at this hospital, and I said, we're redoing this, parking lot, such and such date, and we got one car. We can't figure out if it who it belongs to. We need to get it out of there because we're going to, redo the parking lot. And if we can't find it, the car is going to be towed. Nope, you don't know so-and-so. You don't, I had some other names maybe, that because of on the tag of the car, which was expired. No cooperation. So, okay. So I left. Then we, started announcing, the switchboard occasionally announced, over the PA system that a car needs to be moved and contact us, call the dial the operator or whatever. Nothing, so we towed the car, and I don't know, a week later, 2 weeks later or something, then the psych unit calls. I'm not sure if I went over, but did you tow, a car out? Yes, yes we did. I talked to you about that. I mean, well, that belongs to Mr. So-and-so. He's been here, I don't know, a long time. He's been here, and he went out and his car's not there, And that was a minor thing. I had, at the same hospital, I got a call, I guess I'm talking about I got a call that security, we needed to respond that a patient, a psych patient had left. Okay, the psych unit at that hospital was not a locked door unit. Now, we had people from time to time that the police, one was a lady who talked her stepson, I think it was, and a friend of his into killing her husband, and for them to do it. And they were like teenagers, or I don't know, 16 or something. That made, And then as soon as she was arrested or whatever, she immediately, I'm sure, of course, her law, she needs to go to a psych place, and so she ended up at our place. She didn't really cause any trouble, but that just showed, But anyway, I get a call to go to the psych. I go to the psych unit, and the nurse, there she is, and I said, what's going on? Well, she's one of our patients, and she's left, and bring her, and all the other security officer had already located, and he was, I could see out the window that he was down there with her, and I called him and I said, see if you can talk to her for a second, hold her there while I figure out what's going on here. And then she tells me, she left. I said, now, is she here by court order? No. No. Is she on is she suicidal? Do you know that no. I said, has she taken some kind of a medication or something where she may, not know what's going on and step out in front of a bus? No. And I said, then why can't she leave? This is not a locked door unit. There's no, whatever. Well, that woman out there, came to get her and everything, and they're lesbians, and that's her lesbian girlfriend. Why can't she? No, can't go. She can't go. She has to stay. I said, no, she doesn't. So I called the other security. Well, I asked the nurse, does she have any property here? Well, yeah. And so I called the other officer and I said, tell, by that time I knew her name, tell, so-and-so that she's free to go. There is some property here that belongs to her. And if she'll come back, come up to the lobby up here, I'll see that she gets her, property back. And the nurse said, oh, no, she has to say no. So then, the nurse goes back, and then she comes right back. I forget what the excuse was. And I said, no, she's free to go. And then she goes, and I think I probably said again, if she's here by court order or, but no, she's free to go. She comes back out. Well, the next thing she came back out was with, I have her, the psych doctor, she may not have put it that way. Anyway, Dr. So-and-so or whatever. And he was on the phone and he says that she is to stay here. And I said, well, you can go back and tell Dr. So-and-so that she doesn't have to stay here. And I said if there was a court order or something, yes. So she comes back out. The nurse, Dr. So-and-so says that he has a court, he has a court order. He has a court order, I forget exactly how it went. And I said, go tell Dr. So-and-so that I don't care that he has a court order in his pocket or on his desk or wherever it is. It's not here. It's not on her chart, and she is free to go. And the nurse goes back in. The nurse comes out and says, I forget what it was. Well, she may injure herself because of a medication or something. She might step in front of a bus or something like that. I said, okay, that's it. I'm tired of dealing with you. I said, get the head, on weekends and when administration's out there, there's a nurse almost every, I think every hospital that I know of that I ever dealt with, and that could be a he, and that's the person who's in charge, not the hospital administrator that's at home or whatever. That person is in charge. Nursing is a good profession to be in for males or females. You don't you go through some early stuff that's not too pleasant, but then you can get into supervisory position, get in type, be running a hospital, on weekends and nights. So anyway, I said get the house supervisor, and right then the house supervisor came out from the psych unit. She'd gone in another door to the psych unit, or she came out, and she says, "Jim, I just checked this her chart, and she is free to go. We can't keep her." And so, she left. But anyway, when I went to the, so I guess I'm telling you about, if you have to deal with psych, if you're one of the many families who has, somebody in your family that has, I hope, that, now we've had some good years with my grown son. He got on the right medications for a while, for years, and no problem, no problems at all. But we've had some bad times. By the way, in case you're wondering, when my son was in the hospital, when he said he was going to kill me, and so he could be with God, when my son was ready to be released, they said, well, Dr. So-and-so wants to talk to you and stuff. And he says, well, your son said he was going to, and he says, I just wanted to check with you to make sure that he's okay, that you're okay to have him go home. And I said, sure, he's my son. I don't have a problem, so. But again, okay, I guess this is a thing about, ought to be of interest, since 1 in 10 people have somebody, that either they are or one of their, have, I think 1 in 10 have schizophrenia. And there's other things. I'm not sure exactly how that works. When Echo, I asked her something, how many people, and it says 1 in 10 have, schizophrenics, or 1 in 10. But then there's others, manic depressive, all types, things. Anyway, at the hospital I was same hospital I'm working at, psych unit called. And they had, in Kansas City, Missouri, there's an area, plaza. It was like, I think people say it's the first mall. I'm not sure if this, United States, that was the first. I think that's what they're saying. It might have been they're describing something else, but it doesn't matter. But okay, it's an upscale place, the Plaza in Kansas City, Missouri. If you come, at Christmas time, they put lights up all over the place, and it's if you come to Kansas City for some reason and you want to check out, go to the Plaza, some nice shopping, some great eating places, and stuff like that. But anyway, this patient of ours in the hospital, more than middle age, her husband, I guess, owned a really, and I never ate at any, I don't think I ever ate at any of the restaurants on the Plaza. I mean, I could have, if but I just, give me a McDonald's or something, But she took off, so they called security, Her husband had, got her in there, and I guess she'd showed up, at his fancy restaurant and created a scene or whatever. So he got her admitted. It's been a long time too, by the way. 1960s, was it? Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. started working, the first hospital was 1972. Let's see. Okay, it was in the 80s, I think, before any of you young whippersnappers were born. Okay, we're coming up pretty quick on 30 minutes. I want to end this. If I can remember where I was going. Well, as an example, so she left, and they called security, and of course we looked for her. We looked for her in the hospital. We looked for her, out in the parking lots. We looked around, drove around, and the neighborhood, somebody's looking, and somebody inside, somebody's looking outside, depending on how many officers you have, all that kind of stuff. We couldn't locate her. Now we don't go, we don't go searching entire Kansas City, Missouri, or whatever, And the nurses said, the psych unit, well, her husband, whatever. So then the psych unit calls. Okay, what we need you to do is to go over to Western Missouri Mental Health. That's the place I told you about. My son was in there many times. And that's where... and so she's telling me, okay, now, and you need to go and you take her. And I said, what do you mean take her? Going over to go over to pick her up, right? Yeah, okay. But I said, wait a minute, are you telling me that Western Missouri Mental Health does not want to release her, and that you want me to go over there and forcibly remove a psych patient from the city, psych unit? Yes, she's our patient. I said, there is no way in the world that we're doing that. You need to talk to some doctors. You need to talk to somebody and get this all straightened out. And I said, when you do, which I'm sure you'll be able to do, when they're agreeable, that I will go over and pick her up, but I want a psych employee from our unit to go with me. One thing, she was a female, but anyway. And so then they call back, okay, Dr. So-and-so worked it out, and whatever. So we went over, and are you are you an employee here? Okay, well, I'm here to, it's like, anyway, they sent a big black psych attendant or nurse's aide, or I don't know what anyway, real nice guy. And he went with me, and good, that's good too, because I'd never seen her, and he goes right in, and let's say her name's Mary. Now, Mary, I'm here to bring you back to, whatever, and I don't know, I don't want to go, whatever, and that kind of thing. And he says, well, I forget it, it's been a long time, well, you're going, Mary, now, come on, and then he finally just went over and just, we didn't hit her or anything like that, just grabbed her, we took her back. Now, why did I get on that subject? Anyway, wanted to mention something else. It's going to be a little longer than 30 minutes. I've never ever had this happen before. I have on my, computer here, and I have one of the tabs or whatever is, they have different subjects like YouTube. So my YouTube links are, and what else do I have? Let's see. That's not going to show it. Let's go over here. That's not going to show it. Here it is. Okay. Okay, you can't see that, but so I have start pages. That's a whole bunch of stuff. And I have bookmarks. I have ham radio stuff. I have money. And I have my sites. I have YouTube stuff. And I'm not sure why I have TikTok on there. But So I have all my money stuff listed where I go through, my bills and that kind of stuff. Anyway, at this time of the month, like the 7th of the month, I don't have much money. The rent for the apartment is 1,000, it's about $1,200 or something like that. And then I have the other things that other things that I need to pay. Electricity, $250 a month, and all these other things. So I don't have much money, and but I do go check these things to make sure that I've paid everything. I just went to my bank account, and I had over $1,000 in my bank account. And I shouldn't have had that much money in my. And then of course I saw it was a deposit, kind of weird, for that amount of money. So, I wasn't supposed to have, very much money at all in the bank until last May. It's the 7th of the month, kind of eat lean and whatever. But I thought, what in the world is, that? And then I thought, oh God, I pay the rent, and that's like $1,200, And I knew I paid it. I went to the site, I paid it. It immediately showed it came out. When I saw that it had been taken out, and I thought, okay, and apparently what it is, and I know they will catch it very quickly. Somebody made a mistake, not at my end, but at their end, somebody made a mistake. So at the end of the day, when they balance it or whatever, when they're doing the balancing, they're going to say, wait a minute, and so it's going to be that they put in that amount of money, and somebody else will probably turn up like, how come I didn't get my automatic deposit or something? So they'll take care of it. But that was kind of a shock. And so, okay, update on my son real quick. He went out the door the other night. We eventually called the police, and a few weeks before this, he took off and ended up. I'm not sure if the police right away called. Anyway, he ended up in the psych unit. And then when they released him, one, they didn't call us. And, or maybe that's the time that, I can't remember, been a busy last couple of months and stressful. When you have somebody laughing, and it's the kind of laughing that you would hear in a psych movie or something, when he does that just about 24 hours a day. He even goes to sleep, and he had that, and there were other things going on. But anyway, so okay, before that incident, I forget exactly what happened, but he ended up in the psych unit because we knew he was there because an ambulance had to be called and the police had to come here. And so we knew he was in the psych unit. And then we're checking as best we can. Well, the ex-wife is doing that kind of stuff. And they don't want to give out any information, even to parents. If you go to a psych hospital, I'm sure they do it some places differently, but you go there and you're your adult son or daughter has to give you, I'm sure they do it differently in different places, but because of privacy, because I'm doing this thing with my fingers again, so I better go back here. I'm doing that with privacy and of the patients and that kind of stuff. They won't let you talk to them unless you have the code. They won't even tell you if they're there unless you have the code that your son or daughter or whatever it is, husband or wife or whatever, and they give you the code. And oftentimes they're not able to give, they don't know where they are or what's going on. And so, our son was in the psych unit, and then I don't think at that time that we knew that he was released. They didn't call us. They also, now in the past, the same hospital has, called a cab and paid for the cab to bring, our son home. This time, I don't know why, this time they gave him a bus pass to ride the bus. And he had no shoes or socks on, but when he left here, that's sort of our mistake. The condition he was in, we were glad that the paramedics showed up, and glad that he, got taken to the hospital. And we should have made sure that he had, shoes and socks. Of course, he had no money at all, and he didn't have his cell phone. He just, he didn't have anything. So they gave him a bus pass. Now, we didn't know this. We didn't know he'd been released because confidentiality or whatever, and stupidity too. So he'd been released. This is when the temperature was, 108 or something, a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I forget how long. And it was daytime. He was released with a bus pass. Oh, he was great. He had a bus pass. Okay, the bus would, the bus would not allow him on because you have to have I don't know if you have to have both or whatever, but all he had was I think at that point a gown. So the bus wouldn't take him, and it's finding out from him exactly, you're not exactly sure if, I'm not sure if he got finally on another bus that let him on, but it wasn't going to where he needed to go, and he was confused and whatever. And then he ends up, I think, back at maybe the same hospital. And then the police, now, I'm guessing that this is not the Fort Worth police because the hospital has their own police department. They're actually police officers. They drive police cars with sirens. They've got, I'm not sure they have guns. I'm sure they have guns, I guess. They can make arrests. They can issue tickets, and they have their own computer sitting there. It's an actual police department. So I guess it's probably maybe one of them. What are you doing here? But it must have been a different hospital because, no, it wasn't at this point. Okay. Because the police officer, according to our son, and my son said, I just got out of the hospital. I don't know. I'm sure I'm not sure what he said. Hey, I can't ride the bus because I don't, whatever. And the police officer was like, no, you didn't get out of this hospital because the gown you have on, that's not the That's not the color or something like that. And then I don't know what kind of a conversation went on with them. But then I guess the police officer called inside or whatever, and then they found out, yeah, he was the patient. And they said, wait a minute. Uh, and a nurse, my son said nurse, but it may have been, a nurse's aide, or it could have been, brought out his clothes, of course, no shoes or socks, because he didn't have any with him. And, well, that was it. And, so then I think this is when my son was also told by the police officer, keep moving. So my son starts off and he goes off and he's asking people, I guess, from time to time, could I use your phone to call, my parents or to, whatever. And of course they said no. And probably one or more of them probably called the police. And I'm not saying that that's, I'm not saying that they did wrong, you know. So he said that happened 4 times. That 4 different times a police officer made contact with him. I'm guessing that after the first one, that the other 3 must have been Fort Worth police officers. And so, and he was asking people, could I use your cell phone? And remember too that the television and radio and everything is reporting extreme heat. This is Texas. Extreme heat, dangerous heat. Stay out of the sun, etc., etc. And he was in the sun. He had no money. He had 0 money, not money for a Coke or not anything. And we don't know. We think he's still in the hospital. And we weren't called when he arrived there. And, well, okay, that's the time, okay, they picked him up here. So we knew he was in the hospital. So what else did he see? He was asking people if he could use their cell phone. Then he ended up sleeping in a Walmart's parking lot because when he got home, his mother, she likes to order food in from Walmart, and she likes Walmart, but she's not, we don't have a car. Neither one of us has driver's licenses. I couldn't pass now a physical for, I couldn't look. I know you have mirrors, but I think you maybe have to, So he ended up sleeping. I don't know how long. He slept in a Walmart parking lot. That's probably when police came along and probably told him, hey, keep moving, And finally, he gets home the next day. His feet were, burned. I mean, we didn't have to take him to it, his feet were burned, and he hadn't had anything to drink. Well, maybe he ran across. He walked home. Maybe he went by a park with I don't know. Kind of hard to get some information out of him. So that's the situation. If you have I worked hospital security for 30 years, and in my personal car. I couldn't go too far. I drove people home, not just mental patients, you know. And we did, I drove people home, not, you know, there were we were kind of rural. We were away from this, you know. We couldn't get a cab to come out to. Now, of course, there's, you know, Uber and all those type of Lyft or whatever it is, all those kind of things. But I mean, I gave money to a few people. One time it was a blizzard, and a father and a mother and I'm not sure how many kids, I think one. They ended up somehow at our little tiny hospital out there. And now I know one of the husbands of one of the nurses out there, when weather got bad, he didn't get paid for it, and it wasn't Salvation Army or anything like that also. But they had a team or whatever, and they would go out and try to find the homeless in Kansas City, Missouri. And they took blankets and hot coffee, and, you know, they were out in the blizzard or cold weather. That's just one of the things that, you know, there's people out there doing. I got a friend who does the Meals on Wheels thing. He's up there with getting, well, not as old as I am, but so he's cut back a little bit. But now it's at the point where, you know, if they can't get a driver or something, they call him, and he, you know, he does that, and plus other stuff that he does. There are some great people out, and even here in the United States, there are some great, good people. But things need to be, you know, things need to be changed, need to be improved, and keep in mind, you know, there's an awful lot of people, and there's an awful lot of police officers and other people that, you know, to hell with those people. You know, they need to, you know, they need to do this or they need to do that, or, you know, what, you know, whatever. But then there's also some really good people. I mentioned this before, that the Fort Worth Police Department, I'm really impressed with what I've seen about, you know, what I've seen, and when they've responded out here on our son, impressed. But I suspect anyway, when I was trying to help the Fort Worth PD with their getting the word out, and they were genuine about it, that they wanted, you know, gay people, if you know, to be police officers. If, you know, if you met the standards, and you know, blacks, Hispanics, whatever, I don't know, whatever the minority, you know, they wanted, you know, to make their, you know, department as open and as much like the community as it could be, you know, to make things, you know, easier and whatever. But anyway, I went through the police academy, but I went through, and I didn't have to go through the police academy in Kansas City, Missouri. Because I was already, you know, grandfathered in, and then they passed a law that you needed X number of hours. But I was then on I was a reserve officer for a small police department. And I didn't have to go through the academy, and they said, but if you want to, I said, oh yeah. So I went through it was an abbreviated one. It was for reserve officers. And Kansas City, Missouri police officers, also their reserve officers also went there. So anyway, so I was familiar with the police academy and stuff like that. So I asked the guy I was trying to help, or two of them, really nice, both black, both served in the United States Marine Corps, both had college degrees and everything like that. But anyway, the one guy who was picking me up, you know, and when I was helping him, he'd pick me up. The first time he came out to this apartment complex, he made quite. Of course, police show up occasionally, but and the department has, I don't know exactly how it works. They have a police officer. I'm sure he has other duties, but they have one for like each area, and so he has X number of apartment complexes, and he's expected to keep in touch with the management there and set up maybe a training thing for people around Christmas time to watch for so you don't have your stuff stolen and out of your car at Christmas. All this kind of, I don't know exactly what but a lot of stuff like that going on. But anyway, so when I was asked by the Fort Worth PD to help them, I was asking a bunch of questions of the guy that was in charge of this little project, him and another guy. I just mentioned them, ex-Marines or whatever. And so I asked a bunch of questions. I said, you're reserve officers now. I said, some police departments, reserve officers have to ride with another officer, stuff like that. I didn't have to, when I was for 10 years helping a reserve. I did it one night a week I stopped after like 8 years of doing it actually one night a week, and I was a detective for a while. And before that I was a sergeant or whatever. But I asked him a whole bunch of questions, and he, I said, like when they graduate from the academy, and it's a really long academy. I mean, and two, if I ask him, I think he said that as soon as you start the police academy, you get the full police wages. Some places you don't get the full wages; you get reduced wages, or until you actually graduate the academy. Anyway, I asked him a bunch of, and then okay, when these people graduate from the academy, do you put them on the least desirable? You put them on midnight shift, and they're all on the midnight shift, and working with these guys that are here's the way we do this, or And he said, no, when they graduate, some go to, one shift, some go to another shift, some go to some other thing, and I said, great, So I was asking all these questions. I was curious about it, and everything I heard was good, And I said, I've got a son with, mental problems. How, do you have training in the academy, on that? Oh yeah, we have. And I didn't ask him any questions. I probably wouldn't know what to even ask him, really. Of course, keep in mind I had worked 30 years hospital security, but but I did say to him, I said, I would be willing to bet that you could improve that, the training that they get on dealing with psych patients a lot better. He didn't answer me. He didn't. He was really nice, by the way. He didn't say, "Oh, Jim, yeah, maybe you're right." It was like, "Oh no, we treat, we teach that." But I did say to him, I said, one thing I would recommend. I said is having, somebody come in who has a family member, and let them tell you what it's like, and what happens when the police respond, and problems that they have, and I said I think that'd be a good idea, because I knew of some cases, where, not in my case, but where things had not gone well. I'd worked at hospitals where I saw some things that were not. I think I mentioned one of those. Maybe not. Anyway, so I don't know how many hours they spend on dealing with psych patients and that kind of stuff. I had a girlfriend for a while in Kansas City, Missouri, and her brother was manic depressive, and he was big, and he never hurt anybody. He never hurt them or whatever. But there's times that he went. I never saw him. I only saw him a few times, very few times. He was really nice. He was really big, you know. But they had called the police, and you know, the police roughed the brother, you know, roughed him, you know, So there's a lot to this. So if you're, let me try to make this 1 hour. I'm sorry. Let me, if you're, you know, a police officer or a security officer, whatever, you know, try to get training if you can, and, you know, especially try to get training in how to deal with, you know, psychiatric patients and people with difficulties and people under stress. If you work at a hospital, you know, a lot of people who come in are going to be, you know, I've had, you know, been out in a parking lot, and just as one example, out in a parking lot, and a guy was a painter, and he was up on a ladder, and he fell off the ladder, and he was brought in. You know, I had the other officer get a wheelchair and come over and, you know, wheel him over to the emergency room because he parked in a parking spot. And then a little bit later, you know, a female comes in, drives in the parking lot, drives over the parking barricade, you know, and all that. And she said, they just brought my husband in, and I said, is that the painter? Yes, that's the painter. And I said, I'm not supposed to say, but he's fine. He's going to be okay. He's okay. You know, calm down, relax. He's going to be okay. You know, at the hospitals, they really don't want anybody. You know, you're not supposed to. Some of our doctors don't want the staff to say, you know, if somebody comes in, you know, some of your, you know, not many, but some of our doctors. Like I don't want to make this any longer. Anyway, I want to say, if you can do anything to improve the situation, you know, do so. If maybe I couldn't do it, really. I had to do it, sort of. You know, I had to spend hours one time with a big guy, and came to our little hospital, and he needed to go to a psych unit. And, okay, I'm getting too mixed up. We had one guy that was brought in who tried to jump off an overpass down onto 71 highway. He would have been, maybe it wouldn't have killed him, but a car probably would have hit him. Or maybe if it was far enough, it could have also just killed him if he hit his head or something. And then it was before, at that hospital, the little hospital that I worked 10 years at, 9 years. Security didn't come on the weekend. There was no security around. You know, there was security at night, but during the daytime there really wasn't any security. You know, I'd always said that I wasn't going to work any place where there wasn't security around the clock. But that hospital they built in my hometown, and I wanted to work there, and I had to file a grievance in order to get there. But anyway, this guy tried to jump off the overpass. The Belton PD officers, and I guess I don't know who all, you know, pulled him back so he didn't jump down the highway and kill himself. They brought him in to the hospital, and then he tried to cut his wrist in the room. They put him in the room, you know, and he tried to cut his wrist. And just so happened that day, we normally had the, you know, like we were like a family, the staff there. And I've told you about that, I think. Virginia and Chris and all those others. Hard-working nurses, and that's hard work, especially when you're working a 12-hour shift. Even an 8-hour shift for them is, you know. But anyway, So anyway, the ER doctor called Western Missouri Mental Health, the place in Kansas City, Missouri. That's it. I was there, standing because the patient was there, and uh, the very good ER doctor. Uh, he called them and he said, we got this, and well, it's the weekend, and the ER doctor is like, yeah, but I need to get this, get this. Well, we don't have any beds ready, and it was like, and I thought, oh my God, but it was not unusual to me. I think it might have been unusual to that ER doctor, and he told well, that wasn't a doctor. He wasn't talking to it. He was talking to Western Missouri Mental Health. So he was talking to one of these people that, when I saw him, I couldn't tell the difference between the psych patients and the employees. So the employee at the psych center said, "Doctor, why don't you just have him sign a paper, a little contract with you, that he will not injure himself, and then we'll make an appointment for him to come down on Monday." And the doctor said, I forget exactly. What part of this conversation from me do you not understand? Did you not understand that he tried to jump off an overpass down onto a highway to kill himself? When he was brought in here, he tried, to kill him, cut his wrist or whatever. And it just so didn't do any good. And so then the doctor spent hours himself. He didn't tell a nurse to, hey, do this or whatever. He spent hours calling psych units. And then finally he found one. And anyway, for those hours, who do you think was taking care of the psych patient and talking to him? And of course, he's a big guy, by the way, young and big. And he's like, he says, you seem like a nice guy. And I said, I am a nice guy. And he says, but I hear voices saying bad things about me. And he says, it seems like they're coming from you. And I said, I guarantee you they're not coming from me. I wouldn't say anything, I can't remember the exact conversation. I wouldn't say anything bad about you, And he says, well, you seem like a nice guy. So I spent hours talking to him. Anyway, so they sent this patient off and then it was like I just happened to be there when, I wasn't there when, but the doctor told me, I think, when I came in, it was worked out the same doctor, I think. This doctor who had called all these places, he called into another county or something or other, and they took him. And then the guy was getting ready to be released, and he had like a week to go or something like that, and then he was going to be released from the program. And then they found out, whoops, we're not going to get paid because this program or whatever it is, it just pays for people who are here from this county, who live in this county or whatever. And they said, they told the doctor, don't worry, we're going to finish out, he's going to finish out the week with us and everything. So, wow. And then that guy showed up. And to thank the ER doctor, the patient showed up at our ER to thank that ER doctor. And he talked to me and everything. And then he thanked the ER doctor and everything. And he seemed, fine. I just hope whatever medicine, I hope he keeps taking his medicine, Okay, I've talked way too long. Well, it's just slightly above, oh no, okay, let me go on. if you're young and you want to help out, you want to be a nurse, you want to be a doctor, or whatever. If you can get into, if if you're a family, if you have a problem like this, look around to see if you can get some help for yourself. There are groups. I can't remember that. I've never taken part in it, but there are groups of people, like family members, that meet. I don't know, like Alcoholics Anonymous or something. And they meet and they share information, and so they're, and if you're somebody out there who maybe is lucky enough who, doesn't have this kind of stuff going on, of course, with 1 in 10, you probably do. But if you are one of those people, donate some money to a cause. Now make sure you give it to the right people, not to scammers or something like that. Donate some money. If there's legislation or something, before the state legislature or something, and if there's something in there to, improve the funding for psych hospitals, or just whatever it is, if you could help, if you could help out, it would help out, a lot. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.